From the dawn of time we came, moving silently down through the centuries, living many secret lives, struggling to reach the time of the gathering, where the few who remain will battle to the last. No one has ever known we were among you until now.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Afternoons with the Ambassador. And today we are going to pay tribute and homage to one of the greatest, one of a cult classic, a cult great of the 1980s, Highlander. And with me this afternoon, I've got my good friend Stone Loki, Speaker for the Dead, will be here shortly. He is coming home from work, so he'll be here when he gets here. And to the chat, to my moderator, Shea Storm Dragon, welcome. Good afternoon, Rogue Nerf Herders. Good afternoon, Chef Zilla. Good to see you, Purple Lady. Greetings, Brian Hill, Master of None. Good to see you as well. So, yeah, folks, this has been one we've been building up for a little while, and here it is. So, and also to the chat, Mountains of Elysium, Mr. CCDV, welcome. Thank you for tuning in as well. Glad y'all could tune in. And today, like I said, we're gonna show some love to this cult classic of the 1980s and talk about Highlander. So Loki, I know we streamed this morning. How has your day been thus far? How you doing?
There can be only one.
Yes. Here we are, born to be kings. We're the princes of the universe. Doom, doom, doom.
Breaking it down. See, you need to come on.
Here we are.
You need to come on.
Survival in a world with the darkest power. So, Loki, my friend, this is the one we've been talking about for a few weeks now, and it's finally here. So, we'll let Speaker get here when he gets here. We're going to go ahead and start. So, where do you want to begin with this glorious masterpiece of 80s sword swinging, sword bashing, and hard rocking epicness?
You got to start at the beginning. You know, you got to start back in Glenfinnan in the Highlands of Scotland when all this started. You know, yes, it does start in the Manhattan, you know, in the arena, but it also starts in the Highlands of Scotland, in Glenfinnan, with a very young Connor MacLeod going to battle with his clan, going to battle, you know, and the Frasers, they were going to battle against the Frasers. It's when the MacLeod fought the Frasers, and you know, his people are wishing him good luck and wishing him off to battle, and they're you know, laughing and talking about peeing in their kilts, and Angus pees in his kilt all the time, you know, and he's happy. It's one of the few moments in the movie where you really see him happy. Besides the very end of the movie, he's happy. He's smiling. Yeah. He's going off to fight with his brothers and defend his people. So how can you not start there?
Oh, yeah, totally. And I will say this. I know somewhere back in my lineage somewhere, there's some Scottish blood in me, and I love the cinematography for the movie. You've got the Scottish castle there. You've got the loch next to it. And to Chad, a Dega Outlaw, greetings, my friend, and congratulations formally on hitting 200 subscribers.
Hell yeah, brother.
And just another nerd, greetings to you as well. Thank you for tuning in. Glad you could be here. Yeah, I'm an Anglophile. That's somebody who has a passion and a love for anything from the British Isles, and I love Scotland. Anything. I love the spirit. I love the music. Yes, some people may say a bagpipe playing sounds like a pig being slaughtered, but to me, it's one of the most beautiful musical sounds in the world. And I love the opening when they're coming out on the bridge. You've got the monk there holding the very simple rudimentary cross. In this year of our Lord, 1536, bring victory to the Clan MacLeod.
That's right.
And then, of course, a few minutes later, you see that same priest or monk or anything slitting somebody's throat. And he's like, "Forgive me, my son."
Yeah. He pulls out that blade and slips his throat, and then, you know, he's like, Last rites there, brother. There you go. Hey, everybody had to fight. Everybody had to
Yeah.
fight back then. Even the clergy had to go to battle. So clergy's going to war. Everybody's going to war.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I love that. I will say that one of the things I love about this film is how they transition backwards and forwards and anything throughout Connor's life. I mean, yeah, you start initially there in Madison Square Garden during that wrestling match, that very 80s-esque wrestling match.
With the Hardy brothers. Those were the original Hardy brothers, guys. Or no, it was the Freebirds. My bad. It was the Fabulous Freebirds.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, it was the Fabulous Dreamers, I thought was what the announcer said.
Maybe it was. I don't know.
I think it was the Fabulous Dreamers.
Maybe it was the Fabulous Dreamers.
Yeah. But yeah, and everything. And then, of course, you have that long tracking, panning shot up to Connor there in the upper echelon. And then they've got the light just focused on his eyes and everything. And, then, of course, you've got him looking around like he senses the other immortal, Amon Fazil. Who's down there in the garage of Madison Square Garden?
It was the Freebirds. It was the Fabulous Freebirds. Yeah, because they got the Confederate robes and all that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So fair enough. But yeah, it was that. I love the cinematography. I love the transitions and everything, backwards and forwards between modern day and Connor's past life. And the version I've gotten to watch, I guess it had some extra scenes or whatever added back into it, because you see other parts or anything of Connor's life throughout this film. But with the beginning of it, when he's there in Scotland, and then of course you've got the one and the only Sir Sean Connery as Juan Sanchez Villalobos Ramirez.
It's his teacher, the guy who basically shows him, hey man, you're immortal. You cannot die, MacLeod. You're immortal.
No, you're immortal, you fool. You're immortal, you idiot.
And then he takes him out of the lake and drowns him. He's like, I can't drown you, idiot. You're immortal.
No. And then you see him singing, oh, save us, Heavenly Father. And then, of course, you've got him doing the alliteration, BALANC, balance. So
he's got to teach him balance, man. He's got to fight.
Yeah, and that's one of the first. Good to see you, number one sci-fi. Thanks for tuning in, bud. Good to see you. Glad you're, as Loki said this morning, glad you're feeling well. So, but yeah, that's one of the first rules of sword fighting. You have to learn balance. And, even for the few scenes that Sean Connery is in this film, and I mean, there's some voiceover work by him as well, but for the few scenes that he is in, he completely owns every scene. He's so charming and so whimsical and so, and at certain points threatening in this movie. And you love him to death. Every time you see Sean Connery in that very outlandish outfit, you're just like, jeez, could they have played him up anymore? Everything, the big wide hat with the peacock feather down the side, the long cloak, and of course that katana, that sword, that beautiful sword. Man, I would love to have that sword, even if it isn't actually lethal.
The Masamune. It was a Masamune blade, yeah.
Well, and here's the interesting thing about this movie. I mean, you get 6 swords technically that you see. You have Amon Fazil's sword, which is a very different type of fighting sword. Obviously, you have at the beginning MacLeod with his claymore, and then of course you've got the Kurgan with that big freaking menacing as hell broadsword of his that he gets customized to where it'll break down and everything. And of course you've got the one friend. Anything, the one friend of Connor's and everything that they meet there on the bridge there in Central Park.
Yes. Yes. And he had a
scimitar.
A scimitar. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So it really gives you a good idea that these guys and their connections to their swords and how customized they were and everything. It was a really nice touch for each character, because I mean, Ramirez says, I am 2,349 years old or something. He's over 2,000 years old. You're like, when do you stop counting?
Each weapon was except for Connor. Each weapon was like their own Excalibur, because he gets Ramirez's version. He gets the katana, of course, but each weapon is kind of like an Excalibur type weapon, a legendary weapon, something that survived all these ages and is and are the rarest of their kinds. You know, these are epic ancient weapons from the past.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say something else. The sword fighting, while some people say, well, the sword fighting is not particularly good, I think the sword fighting is good. But the thing you have to realize about the majority of the cast is they were not trained sword fighters. Now, they brought in a top-notch fencing expert, and that was Bob Anderson, and everything to do the sword fighting choreography and so on. And I was watching a interview today with Lambert and Brown, and I can't remember the name of the other person or anything. She played, I think, Heather, or the one girl, or the one woman or anything, Rachel possibly, who was Connor's assistant at his antique shop.
Honestly, the only mistake you really see in this movie is when Sean Connery's fighting Kurgan on the steps, and he brings his sword back over his head and he puts his hand out. From what I was told when I was learning, you never stick your hand out. That's how you get your hand cut off. No matter what you're doing, you never stick your hand out. Not for balance, not for anything. You never stick your hand out in front of you. Blade always goes out in front of you.
Yeah.
You never, ever, ever stick your hand out in front of you. Like Conan, you know, he's like, whoa, and brings it up above his head and puts his hand out. No, don't do that. Get your hand out that way.
Totally. Well, and, you know, the other thing you have to realize, I think they kind of simplified the sword fighting because Christopher Lambert, without his glasses, is practically blind. And here is our third. Greetings, speaker. Welcome, friend. Glad you can make it.
Holy cow. Sorry I'm late.
You're cool, Brian. Good to see you again, man.
Yeah.
Speaker, you told us you were getting home from work. It's okay. You don't have to apologize. You were at work. So take a breath.
Yeah, but this is Highlander.
There can be only one.
You've already said that.
From the dawn of time they came.
All right. I've got my cursor right over the mute. All I got to do is mute your butt. I'll do it.
Man.
I got here just in time. All right.
Yeah, Brian got here just in time.
Brian, speaker, whichever name you want to be called by, we were just going over some of our favorite parts. I was talking about the swords and whatnot. Your thoughts, anything, something you want to share and everything with the rest of the class about Highlander?
I just went and watched it again on Monday on my day off, and I just sat there thinking, you know, it suffered a little bit over the time. You know, it's definitely a product of the 80s, but it is still so good. I mean, it is so good. The acting, the story, it was just. I remember watching this when I was a kid. It was rated R, and we weren't supposed to be watching that. And my brothers brought it home, and we basically like hid in our basement so that we could watch it. And it was just, I don't know. I love. It starts out awesome. I mean, it starts out with Queen. I mean, one of the coolest Queen songs out there. I mean, and it just gets better from there on in. I mean, it starts with the wrestling and zooming in on him from the crowd. It just, I don't know. It's got such great visuals. It's just an epic film. I don't know.
Yeah. I wholeheartely agree with you on that one, because that was something I had brought up just a few minutes ago. About the cinematography for this movie and the transitions back and forth and everything. And the transitions were really very good, I thought, considering the time and everything, the technology that they had at their disposal. Because it was sometimes it's so simple as just doing a panning shot, pan up or pan down or pan to a side or whatever. And you're transported back in time or forward to current era and everything. And, you know, some of the dialogue in this movie, they could not have gotten away with nowadays in this film.
Oh, dude, yeah, the curtain stuff, dude. When that chick on the radio's like lying on the floor next to his own severed head, a head which at this time has no name. I
know his name.
Yeah, Kurgan.
And Clancy freaking Brown, one of the nicest guys you would ever want to meet. He plays such a creep in this movie. Just an absolute creep.
And this is the movie I identify every time I see him in something else. I go, it's Kurgan.
Yeah,
I know.
It's the first thing I think whenever I see him. I've seen him in Star Trek. I've seen him in all kinds of stuff, and that's the first time. There's Kurgan.
Yeah, he's in games, dude. He's in Detroit Become Human, man. And of course, he's a detective in Detroit Become Human. And I was like, holy shit, Kurgan's in this game. I don't even think Clancy Brown. It's Kurgan. He's so blacklisted, dude. We treat that guy terrible because every movie, every series, everything he's in, there's Kurgan.
Well, he's not blacklisted so much. He's just kind of that's such an iconic character for him. And Chefzilla brings up the quote, and several people have quoted the quote. That quote does everything as we've been going along, and it's just it's a beautiful. This movie is so quotable. It is so iconic. It is so cult classic. It is like the cult classics of cult classics. Let's just be candid here. It's this, and then maybe Evil Dead. Is that cult classic? And of course, as Speaker said, the music. You have one of the greatest, bar none, full stop, no go, buck stops here, rock bands of all time. Come at me. I don't care. I will argue with you this until I am gray. Queen owns this movie with its soundtrack. And the thing that Loki was telling me before we even started, there was no official soundtrack because Freddie Mercury got his knickers in a twist.
Yep.
And I know it's not nice to speak ill of the dead, but Freddie Mercury, get over yourself.
Yep, they did. It's a Kind of Magic, the album, which had the majority of the music from this movie in it.
Yeah, and I'm going to go get that sucker.
They did not have New York, New York, which we've only ever heard 40 seconds of because Freddie had a conniption fit and took the reel-to-reel and hid it in his vault at his house, never to be heard from again, never to be seen by mortal men ever again because he hated it. There was rumors that it was stolen from him, that someone got in his safe and stole it. There's all kinds of urban legends about the soundtrack to this movie and why there was never an official soundtrack called, Highlander, the soundtrack made.
Yeah.
Because Freddie got his knickers in a twist and didn't know what the hell to do with that.
I bet you now, if they did like an anniversary edition of Highlander and they went to the remaining members of Queen and said, hey guys, do you care if we do minus the one song and everything, do you care if we do a special edition CD or record or something? I mean, I'd buy it on CD or even vinyl if they did a vinyl version. And I bet you dime to a dozen, they say, give us a percentage. We don't care. He's dead. And I hate to say it that way because Freddie Mercury was such a great singer and such a great entertainer and a musician. But dude, get over yourself.
Well,
seriously.
I understand all the drama was around New York, New York. They forced him to sing that fucking song. I'm sorry, that effing song. And he was so pissed that he had to do it.
How many times do I have to say it? I don't care if you cuss. My streams are not for children. Okay, I don't care if you cuss. Just don't cuss if Speaker's kid. Just don't cuss if Speaker's kid is around.
It all centered around New York, New York. That was his problem. They forced him to sing it. He was under contract. He had to do it. He didn't want to do it. He threw a fit, and you got missing pieces of the soundtrack. And the only thing you've got of New York is the almost 40 seconds it plays in the movie. That's it. And
it's so good. You wonder why he got so upset about that.
Dude,
I mean, it's an awesome rendition of that song.
It is. It is.
It may just be that they forced him to do it. He didn't want to do it. He didn't want to be told what to do. I don't know. He never would talk about it with anybody. And God, who knows what happened to the track itself. It's an urban legend now. We know it was made. We know he did it. We know he did the whole song. But what happened to it? That's like, did it get stolen? Did he burn it? Is it locked away somewhere? You just don't know. You don't know. Because the Sasquatch, Bigfoot could happen for all. You just don't know. Nobody knows what happened to New York by Queen.
Yeah,
it's with the Loch Ness monster in Scotland.
Yeah,
that would make sense.
Off the shores of Loch Shiel, right?
Yeah.
Well, the one thing about this movie that I really love is the different time periods that this movie takes place in, because you get medieval Scotland, you get modern day New York City, or at least 1980s New York City, when the cops were a lot tougher and everything, relatively speaking.
Adiga has it. Adiga's got the real New York.
Find out where Adiga lives.
Yeah.
Find out where Adiga lives. We're storming Adiga's house.
Out. We're gonna go find him.
Oh man,
Adiga, we're coming for that soundtrack, but not really.
He knows where Jimmy Hoffa's buried too.
But I particularly love the scene where he's talking with his one friend there in New York and everything. They're there on the bridge there in Central Park, and you have the flashback to him dueling that one guy. And he keeps dying.
That was cut. That was so cut from the original movie. I had no idea. That's one of the funniest parts of the movie. He's like, I'm blind.
Yeah.
Why did they cut that?
Mr. Bassheim is ready. I'll be there in a moment. And he's knocked down drunk.
It's one of the only times where somebody says the name of, the Lord in vain, and I still think it's funny. Because he's just like, Christ, I've gone blind. There's just something about that with that accent. It's so funny. I'm like, he turns around, stabs him, and he falls over, and he keeps stabbing him, and he's just like, finally, he's like, all right, I'm sorry I called your wife a bloated. I can't remember what.
A bloated hog.
I apologize for calling your wife
a bloated warthog, and I bid you a good day. And he just walks off and leaves. And then, there's another scene that I think was cut that I got to see in my version and everything, where he's in a farmhouse, I think in France or something, and there's this young girl there that turns out to be Rachel, his assistant at the. You finally find out where she came from, and you see him interacting with a German officer or German soldier or whatever, and the German soldier shoots him, and then he knocks the guy down, takes his gun and shoots him, and goes, "Heil to the Führer," or something like that. Very smarmy, very arrogantly, and the young girl Rachel is like, "Are they all gone?" or something to that effect. He's like, "Yep, they're all gone," and he's like, "You're coming with me." And he raises her like an adopted daughter or whatever.
Yeah, but then
it's when you first hear that line, I think it's a kind of magic. It's what he tells her to kind of calm her down and not freak her out that he's not dead.
Yeah, magic.
Yeah, totally.
But see, I'm glad they did that, because he's supposed to be her lover later. You can't like raise her up from a kid and then become her lover later.
Yeah.
So I'm glad they cut that from the original, because it kind of when I got older and understood, I was like, okay, that's kind of creepy, dude.
That's great.
You save her.
Here's the thing. He never kisses her on the lips. You have that one kiss there at the end. It's a kiss on the cheek, which I think is appropriate and everything, because obviously he's in love with Brenda Wyatt and everything in the middle. And can I just say, Roxanne Hart, man, she was a babe.
Yeah.
Man, she was a hottie back in the 80s.
And you get to see a lot of her during the one particular scene.
Yeah.
It's just like,
I usually just because of ethics, I skip over that scene. But before I was more ethical, I used to watch that scene. So yes, I know what you're talking about.
Lambert was a nipple man in every movie. In every movie he was in, besides Mortal Kombat, he was like, "Oh, nipple in the movie, it's mine." He was the nipple man in every movie. Every single movie he was in. From Fortress to Highlander 2 to Highlander 3, he always, dude.
Oh, makes you wonder if that was in his contract at some point.
Yeah, I get to kiss nipple if there's a nude scene. Must be in contract. I am French. It's the French way.
Well, it's so funny that he's playing the Scotsman, and you've got Sean Connery playing a Spaniard or an Egyptian. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's so funny because, but it really worked. It actually really
It
worked.
did.
I mean,
Yeah.
Sean Connery's still got that Glaswegian accent going pretty heavy, but
Mhm.
but could you imagine anybody else in that role?
No.
He was so good, in that.
Who, Sean or
Yeah,
Chris?
Sean. I mean, Sean and they all were. They all were perfectly suited for their roles, despite the fact that none of them are actually from where they're purporting to be.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I love Sean Connery, but I mean, he was so good in this. You smell like a dumb, when he rocks the ball, flips it.
And and one particular part that I like, that's a good bit of world building, is the fact that the immortals can't have children.
Yeah.
Because think about it, and I love the fact that if you watch this movie just on its own and you don't watch any of the others and everything, the explanation that Ramirez gives to Connor, it fits perfectly, because we don't know where the immortals came from. Why are the stars just pinholes in the curtain of night? Who knows?
Well,
Who
Connor's
knows?
supposed to. At the end, he's supposed to be able to. He says, "I can grow old and love and have children. He can go through time." He's like, it's like he is everything at that point.
Yeah. Well, basically, that's the prize. He's able to communicate worldwide telepathically with anyone he chooses to, and he can grow old and everything. And they do pick up on that particular part in the sequel, whether you like it or not. Anything, the fact that he has.
I don't acknowledge any sequel. There is no sequel.
Yeah, there's no. I'm on that bandwagon.
Yeah, I feel kind of the same way, except for maybe the third one.
That one's fine.
Yeah, the third one's fine. I think for a lot of people, the Highlander universe is a little goofy. And to the chat, Jens Pender and Sit Room, welcome, my friends, and Superior Hero Reviews. Good to see you all as well. Thank you for tuning in. Obviously, we're talking Highlander, so hope you enjoy the discussion. But yeah, honestly, the Highlander universe or the Highlander franchise has been kind of spotty. I think a lot of people, it depends on what you consider canon or whatnot. I know a lot of people consider the first movie in the TV series canon, and everything else is no. But this one movie, it's a beautiful piece of 80s pop culture. It really is, and it blows your mind because this is such an original idea.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing like this before it, and there really hasn't been anything like it since. It's basically a standalone film that has a satisfying beginning and end and everything. If they did nothing else with that movie, I would have been perfectly happy. If they had done, obviously they did the TV show, and I did like the TV show. I thought the TV show was very, very good with Adrian Paul as Duncan.
And the Watchers, when you find out about the Watchers,
yeah,
I was like, okay, brilliant move, guys. Have a secret organization that has known about these guys the whole time and documented everything. And I was like, brilliant idea, absolutely brilliant idea.
Well, if you think about it, too, you've got two relatively successful and cult-worthy cult classic 90s TV shows that both have an organization called the Watchers, because you've got the Watchers in Highlander and you've got the Watchers in Buffy.
Yep. Yep.
So,
and they even talk about the movie in the series when he meets Joe Dawson of the Watchers for the very first time. They talk about when your Klansman killed Kurgan, boy, did he do us a favor, So obviously the first movie happened. Whether any of the other movies happened, who knows?
Yeah. Again, as Ramirez said, who knows? Who knows?
Well, doesn't Christopher Lambert made an appearance in the TV show once or twice?
The very first episode.
Okay, the first one. I was going to say I knew he was in there at some point, but
He died in the movie, in the last or second before last movie, Final Dimension or whatever the hell it was. I can't remember. He dies.
No, it was called Endgame. It was called Endgame.
Yeah, Endgame. Duncan kills him and takes all his power so he can defeat the kind of like the passing of the torch. But then they did one more movie and it sucked too. So
yeah, Highlander the Source. Like, what the heck? I tried to watch that and I was like,
yeah.
See, after the second one, I swore him off. That made me. I mean, that was like the Last Jedi of the Highlander series.
Yeah,
for me. I'm just like, okay, I'm like they messed
come
that
from
up.
a planet Zeist. No,
you don't. Don't explain the mystery. Just leave it alone.
But I will say this: the only good part that came out of the second movie was Michael Ironside as Gerald Katana.
Yes,
can we at least acknowledge that much?
Oh, anytime you see him in a movie, I always loved him. Yeah, he's just awesome.
Totally. Well, not to mention he was a great character in the V miniseries or the second part of the V miniseries. Dang, I gotta get that. I've got to get that show and review it. I love that show.
See, and I remember the Highlander show coming out, and there was a Friday the 13th TV show and a War of the Worlds TV show that came out about the same time, and I liked all of them. But I haven't watched the Highlander TV show for years. But I mean, I loved the War of the Worlds TV show. I thought that was fantastic.
Oh man,
back in the day. Sorry, didn't mean to go off on a tangent there. But
you're good.
This was all swirling right around the same time, as I was growing up in high school.
That was the great thing about Speaker. That was the great thing about the late 80s and going into the 90s is you had so many interesting spin-off shows for different properties. Like you said, they had a spin-off for War of the Worlds and everything where the aliens were actually able to take, or the Martians were able to inhabit human bodies or something to that effect. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, you had Highlander. You had Buffy the Vampire Slayer. There's another movie I've got to get. I don't know. And to the chat, Taylor M., good to see you. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you're doing well. So
you don't have Buffy? Who doesn't have Buffy?
Well, I have the TV show and I have Angel, but I don't have the movie. But I'm going to get the movie. So
honestly, I like this series better. I thought the movie was
yeah, a lot of people think that too, but I just want to have it so I can say I have it.
You know what's sad is I've never watched the Buffy the Vampire TV show. It was just, I don't know why. I saw the movie, but when it came to the TV show, I know I'm probably going to get stoned to death for this, but I just never, I don't know what happened. I just never got into that, and which is weird because I'm a total vampire nut. I mean, anything vampires, I'm all about it. So I don't know why I didn't get in on that. So I need to repent and actually go watch that at some point.
Well, that's like when Rogue Nerf Herder told me the other night and everything when he was on my stream with me and I forget who else was on there with us and everything that he had never seen Mary Poppins.
It was me.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Okay, it was you. You were kind of quiet that night.
I was watching that when he said that. That was a funny reaction you had. I was like laughing my butt off. So. But
Mounds of Elysium.
That's one of those ones where you're just like, oh no, see, Brian Hill didn't watch it either, so I'm not alone.
Yeah, but here's the thing: Roguecast is actually from, or Rogue Nerf Herder, as he's called now, is actually from England. And he's like, "Gee, thanks for stereotyping all of us British people just because the movie takes place in Britain." Jens, we can no longer be friends. We can no longer be friends. No, Buffy was not soy. Charmed, the original Charmed was not soy. So bite your tongue, hang your head in shame. And I should ban you from this. I should ban you from my streams, but I won't because we're friends and I like you and you're entitled to your opinion. I just don't agree with it. So, yeah. Stick that in your pipe and smoke it.
Back to Highlander.
Back to Highlander.
I can sit there and just like, I love this and I love that. I love the entire thing. So it's hard to pick, favorite moments and stuff. But I love when they're in the bar and he meets her for the first time,
Brenda,
and Queen
Brenda Wyatt.
playing in the background, and it's just that interaction between them right there. It just kind of sets the whole, the tone and stuff. And then you guys said you were talking about the swords earlier. I love the swords in this. And I love the sword fighting and all that especially when Kurgan's putting his blade together. It's not a boom pow scene, but it's just
dude,
it's like you in, and you're just like, holy crap! That is one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
I know. I mean, the whole part where he's rotating the sword between his arms is just the sound. It was just like, ugh.
The end of that was the best part, though. The end of that when you hear, I'm Andy. Of course you are. Of course you are.
And can I just say the makeup and everything for this movie was really good, especially with the scar across his throat, where you don't know where he got that scar, and then you find out, well, it's within the fight scene with Ramirez there in the castle.
He improved his voice.
Yep.
Oh, his like just kind of trolling him through that whole fight is just so funny. I love the way Sean Connery just deadpans that. It was awesome.
Yeah. My cousin's improved.
The women that are in his life are kind of fun to watch because, like, the first one goes from "I love you" to
burn him, burn him, burn him.
Like,
he's the devil, burn him.
Did you just become a psycho crazy girlfriend? I'm just like,
I know,
feel bad for him. I'm like, man, that was a fast change. Now he's in League her head spun around faster than Linda Blair's in The Exorcist. Yeah. But I like the guy that plays what's the guy, the redheaded guy, who's his buddy in the village who basically saves him from being
Angus.
Angus. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Angus.
I like that guy, and I've seen him in a few things, but I have no idea what his name is. But he's just. I don't know. That was a cool scene to me when he basically saves his life.
Mm-hmm.
Not really, because he couldn't have died anyway. But you know what I mean. It just keeps him from going through that horror.
Yeah,
and you can't bring up his women without bringing up Heather, because that first time you really see Heather, and that Ramirez shows up and Connor's like, "Go away, woman," and she's like, "I'll stay right here," and he's like, "Do as I say, woman." You're like,
there's a way in the world that scene would get they could get away with that scene nowadays. People would be flipping their crap.
Loki. Oh dear.
Loki said, "Do as I say, woman." It ain't happening. I'll stay right here. Nope.
Yeah, she's and it's cool to watch their life as she ages and he doesn't, and the pain that I think at the end where you finally see that that really hurt her not being able to give him what she thought he wanted, and I don't know, and it's cool that he remembers her and lights a candle on her birthday for the rest of his life. It just that's the kind of true love that, like, it never faded. He held her, that whole time.
That's his first love, man. That was his love. And he didn't understand. It's like Ramirez told him. Ramirez tried to warn him, dude, you let her go, because if you don't, it's going to haunt you for the end of your days. And he didn't listen.
Yep.
Even Kurgan plays off of that later when he's talking about killing Ramirez, and he's like, "I took his head and I raped his woman." And Connor's like, "I'm going to kill you."
Oh.
And he's like, "It wasn't Ramirez's woman. It was your woman." And Connor's just like right there pulling the sword out. He's like, "We're on holy ground, McLeod."
He's like, "Screw holy ground. I'm going to take your head right here, you son of a gun."
Yeah.
Of course, he was calling him several other things.
He really gets under his skin when he says that to him.
Well,
nothing else he could have said, I think.
Well, yeah, quite literally, there was nothing else that Kurgan had on him, but man, that just cut so deep.
Yeah.
Because he's right there on her birthday at the church. He's lit a candle and said a prayer for her and everything. And
here comes Kurgan, not the candles.
Here comes. It's Kurgan.
Happy Halloween, ladies.
I'm in disguise. Oh man, yeah. Happy Halloween, ladies. God, he nails that part. Like you said,
he's got all those safety pins in his neck on the scar, and you're like, dude,
I know.
What the heck, man?
Can you talk? And then, of course, his interaction with the slumlord or whatever it is, and he's like, "Don't ever speak to me."
Yeah.
Well, he's like, "Dude, he's like, don't ever speak to me again."
And then what the guy
do you understand? Yeah, I understand. Good. Yeah, Chefzilla, nuns, no sense of humor.
Yeah,
that's well. When you're in a church and that's the house of God, yeah, that they're definitely. Yeah, Shay, you're not the only one. I would have. I was like, beat the ever loving to beat the taste out of his mouth. Of course, he may have enjoyed it because as the slumlord or the landlord says, Candy told me you were kind of kinky, and I don't even want to know what the Kurgan thought of sexually to do to that woman. That's just like,
yeah,
creepy.
Well, and then what the guy says to him is, I hope you get your head chopped off. You know, and it's like, wow, how did you know what was about to?
Yeah.
It's just it's that portents of what's to come, you know, and it's
here's the interesting thing. During the scene where they're down there in the garage right after the fight between Connor and Amon, one of the other cops is talking to the head detective and everything, and brings up the fact that there was a beheading in New Jersey. Yep. He's like, I try not to go over to New Jersey if I can help it.
I love the cops because they're all just like, this is nothing. Hey, can you get me a donut?
Cherry cheese. Hey, can you give me a cherry cheese Danish?
I'm like, wow, you guys are jaded. That's bad. Dead body, decapitated right there. And they're just like,
oh, no. Why, Garfield? Are you cruising for a piece of ass?
He's like, you want to hear a theory? I'll give you a theory. Amon was this Fazil guy was so depressed by the lousy wrestling, he went down to the basement in a fit of depression, chopped off his own head.
Yeah.
And I'll say this. Connor fighting back there when they're trying to take him into custody, I'm like, dang, this guy gives absolutely no crap whatsoever. He's not taking any crap from nobody, not even the cops.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, dude, you own a business. Think about that. You've got someone to kind of look after in terms of Rachel and everything. And I'll say this for as I mentioned previously, Roxanne Hart, just gorgeous, stunning, gorgeous. I'm a happily married man, folks. Everybody knows this, but gorgeous woman. And her part, she plays it perfectly. She does such a good job with her part as the meddler, as the whatever, the weapons expert and whatever. And then of course you have that scene where Connor goes to her apartment, and dang, she's got a nice apartment, and you see that painting of the Highlander, and he just kind of looks at it and kind of smirks.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, sure, that's accurate to how we dressed. And of course he's like, Are you going to keep recording me with the tape recorder, or shoot me with the 38 you've got in your living room?
I love when he's standing over it and he's like, I said interesting view. And he's talking right into the tape recorder. Oh.
I know. and of course are you going to get a hold of the bald policeman that's sitting outside your apartment?
Yeah.
She don't even care about him. All she cares
she just wants the sword.
Yeah. She doesn't even want it. She wants to look at it. That's all she wants, is an opportunity to check the sword out. That's all she cares about, is that opportunity to look at the Masamune.
Yeah, totally. And you know what? For her, I can understand that because she is a weapons expert. She loves antique weapons. It's something that she's passionate about. It's something that she loves. And if you consider how bloody old that sword is, not to mention the Kurgan sword. I mean, geez. I mean, if the Kurgan is the strongest of all immortals, think how old he's got to be, truly. And think just how old his sword probably is. It may be older than Ramirez's sword, which becomes Connor's sword down the road. But the one thing that I love. Okay, I've said that phrase umpty dozen times during the stream, and you know what?
It's hard to
one thing that I appreciate very much is after Heather dies, he burns their house down and he leaves the claymore there at her grave. It's as her grave marker. And I think that's a very nice touch. It just kind of closes, and Mary speaking, that portion of his life. And you were now just set right in the modern era. Chefzilla, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. That's what she says.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what Brenda Wyatt says.
Well, and to hear Sean Connery tell the story of that sword is, it's in that moment when he's trying to, like Loki said, convince Connor that it's not worth it, and then he tells why, because he had to go through that, and it's just, but at the same time, it's like that story. I'm like, who wouldn't want to be able to tell that story? That, the sword is a one of a kind, like his daughter, just the way he phrases that. I love when he tells that story in this film.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because the relationships in this movie are honestly, I think, are one of the best parts of it. I mean, there's a lot of great parts of this movie, but the relationships between Ramirez and Connor, and between Connor and Heather, and then eventually Brenda, and even in a manner of speaking, the conflict between Connor and Kurgan. They're all very interesting dynamics and everything. And the great thing is, everybody gets good screen time. Everybody gets good moments throughout the entire movie. One of the best parts is the training montage between Connor and Ramirez, and you get the sense that this took at least a month or a couple of months at the very most, and everything, for Connor to get that good with the sword, to learn how to be a good sword fighter, to learn everything what it means to be an immortal, how to conceal your gift, and how to kind of move through time, in a manner of speaking. And the part that I really liked was the fact that the cops, and Brenda in particular, she's able to track him to ground and everything and figure out what's going on. And then, of course, you have that great reveal where they go into his inner sanctum there in his apartment. And can I just say, his apartment is awesome. I love the room and everything where he's got all of his, it's like walking through his entire life. You see the banner and everything from the rival clan, the Frasers, and everything there in his little sanctum and everything, or whatever. You see the sword, you see all the memorabilia from his journey through time. And then he stands there. He's like, I'm Connor McLeod of the Clan McLeod, and I cannot die. And then he puts the dagger or whatever in her hand and has her stab him to prove to her that he can't die.
You know, that first scene where you see that room, that took them over a week to film that one little intro scene, because they had a camera arm up in the ceiling, coming out of the ceiling, that would pan down and go towards the doors when he came in. It would break every single time they tried to film that scene. That arm would break, and they'd have to repair the arm and start over again. And it took them a week to film that one. I remember Christopher Lambert bitching about that. He's like, I'd have to walk through the door every damn day, and the arm of the camera would break. And you're just like, dude, this is the funniest shit ever. It took them a week to film, a 2-second scene where the camera comes in and moves.
Yeah.
But I mean, that tells you how dedicated they were to getting that shot.
Yeah.
The director knew what he wanted, and he's like, this is going to look amazing. It's just like when they zoom in on him in the stadium. I mean, I think that was one of the first times I ever saw that kind of action in a film where you're way panned out and zoom in onto one person sitting there.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of flashes to show that they used a couple different cameras to get it, but I mean, it's so awesome the way they did that.
Yeah, and I brought that up a little while ago, Speaker, but you're totally right. The camera work in this movie was really good. And I will say this, Silver Cup Studios, they really took it on the chin for this movie, but I applaud them for doing that because they completely wrecked that sign on the top of the building during the final battle between Connor and Kurgan. And
they thought a bomb went off. When Kurgan kills that guy Connor talks to on the bridge, his friend, the guy with the scimitar, they literally shook the ground for like 8 blocks when they blew up that damn building when he's having the quickening, and you see the manhole covers coming up out of the ground and shit blowing up out of the ground. They really did that. That wasn't on a set. That was on that was live at location, and they shook the damn block for like 5 blocks. People thought a bomb went off.
Wow.
They freaked everybody out when they did that scene.
Well,
you imagine being there and having to try and figure out what's going on while, hey, but you know what? They captured what they wanted to get. So
yeah. Well, and, Mountains of Elysium, he brings up an interesting point about the final battle between the two of them and everything. And I think there was, Kurgan walks up to him just before his head falls off, puts his hand on his shoulder as like, you were worthy. And everything.
Kurgan was a Cossack from Russia. And the Cossacks were originally Scandinavians. They were Vikings that went to Russia, and they took over Persia, or Pers, which would be Russia. Okay, so Kurgan's known battle his whole life. The greatest thing for him in the world would be to die in glorious battle and actually die at the hand of a worthy opponent. So yes, he would have looked completely. It was all death and destruction for Kurgan, but dying the way he did he would have been happy. He would have been just as happy killing Connor and taking over the world and being the biggest, evilest damn dictator ever. But he was just as happy to go down swinging like he did because battle was everything. War, battle, death. It was all everything for him.
Yeah. And, you kind of, except for the scene there in the church, you almost get the impression that the Kurgan was impressed, in a manner of speaking, that Connor had made it as far as he had, considering where he had come from. And maybe there was just a touch of respect for Connor and everything, particularly during that final battle. Because if you look at the exchanges and everything during that film, you almost see Kurgan relishing the fact that he's going up against a guy that's just as skilled and just as good at this as he is. And there's almost a mutual, well, no, maybe not a mutual, maybe not on Connor's end, but definitely on the Kurgan side of things, there's a mutual respect because Connor has made it to the end. He is the last one. It's just the two of them now. And they're going to give everything they can to this one fight to decide who gets the prize.
Well, and I mean, Kurgan was there basically at Connor's birth as an immortal, because before that he didn't know. And then, he got stabbed, and that was the first time he fell and then rose again, basically. And I mean, it's just, so you kind of get that there's a bond there because, and I always wanted to know why Kurgan knew what he was and where he was before he even knew. You know what I mean? I always wanted the answer to that question. And I'm just like, because he hunts him down and basically creates that conflict between the two clans just so he can get at Connor.
According to the series, they can tell. Like Connor and Duncan knew Richie was going to be an immortal in the series. They knew before Richie ever became an immortal, years in the series before he dies and comes back, that Richie was going to be an immortal. So they know, they can feel it. They can feel it just like they can feel any other immortal. It's just like almost like a lighter sensation because they haven't died for the first time yet.
Yeah.
At least that's the way they explain it in the series. If we're going by this movie, he knew. Ramirez never tells them how they know. They just know. Like you never get the thing, the spider sense is what I called it. The spider sense for
the immortality sense. You
Yeah.
can sense when another immortal's nearby or something like that.
They made a big deal about that in the series, but
but yeah, that's another interesting thing about this film. They don't do a whole lot of world building with it just because they figure this is just going to be a one-off film and everything. It's not going to spawn a TV show or any sequels or anything. And I think honestly that is one of the good things about this because you can kind of build your own world in this movie and kind of explain things your own way if you so choose. And I think that's one of the reasons why this film has lasted and endured as long as they have, not to mention just the fact that it has a top-notch cast and everything with Christopher Lambert, Sean Connery, Clancy Brown, Roxanne Hart, and the supporting cast I thought was very good as well. But, it amazes me. Yeah, Mountains of Elysium brings up a good point. Kurgan could have taken Connor's head at the start, but it would have been too easy. Yeah.
Well, then Chef Zola said there's a reason for Kurgan specifically targeting Connor.
Stabbed him, and he was going to cut his head off right there when his cousin stopped it. His cousins, he was like, no. And his cousin came over, and they grabbed Kurgan, and Kurgan said, another time, my crowd.
I will find you.
He was going to take his head right there, but they stopped him. His cousins stopped him from doing it.
Yeah. Well, and Chef Zilla brings up that there was a reason the Kurgan specifically targeted Connor. Maybe the Kurgan knew something about Connor that nobody else did. Maybe he was going to be, or maybe he was trying to draw out Ramirez and everything because Ramirez eventually tracks down Connor and everything, and he was wanting to take out Ramirez and then take out Connor, and then you've got two of the most skilled immortals out of the way essentially, and he can just take on the rest of them and wipe them out and be done with it. So, but yeah, this film for mid 1980s has endured an exceptionally long time, and it still has a very strong cult following. And I'm one of those people that loves this movie, even though I only watched it on digital. I don't have a physical copy of it, which is something else I'm going to rectify in the near future. But is there anything else you guys wanted to touch on in terms of this film?
How many hours do we have? Because I could do a minute breakdown on this one.
About 3 hours or so, but we got a little time. What do you want to talk about, my friend?
I'm trying to think of the parts we haven't really touched on yet, but like the end, that was the first time when. To see, it almost gives you an evil vibe when he cuts Kurgan's head off and there's like the monsters that are blowing through him. I think that was the first time I'd ever seen that because it's like it's almost like a cartoonish kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like somehow you're suddenly in a live action comic book. And I like that, The monster's blasting through him and he's gaining power as it happens. And it just, that whole sequence through there just is mind boggling. And it was kind of the first time, at least as a kid, as I remember seeing those kind of special effects used that way.
If you slow-mo that part, there is an old school, it almost looks like an old school drawn Chinese dragon, the one with the really long body and the little itty bitty arms that goes into Connor after he kills Kurgan. If you go back and slow-mo it, you can see it, but there is a dragon too that goes into him. So, and
that might have been Kurgan's spirit specifically, considering how old and how powerful he was. Set room, respect, my friend, respect. Dude.
I have a lot of things on videotape, and now I can't find a VHS player to actually play them. But yeah, this whole, from beginning to end, and that's something you got to say about this movie, is the pacing is perfect.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
it never drags. It's never boring. You're getting exactly what you need as you need it. And like you guys mentioned before, the transitions where like it goes into the fish tank and all of a sudden you come up
Yeah.
and you're back in Scotland. And
Yeah.
it's just I don't know, the guy that I can't remember the guy's name that directed this, but he was
Russell
brilliant.
McCauley.
Yeah, I mean, because he paced it just right, so you're never bored and you're never getting hit with stuff you don't need. It's just it
Mhm.
constantly leaves you in that sense of, man, I want more of this.
Yeah.
Don't end this. It's too good.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree with you, speaker, because the editing for this movie, I imagine, took a lot of time. I mean, a lot of time for them to get every piece spliced together. Just as because you got to realize this is the 1980s. There's no digital. This is all on film reels. It's all on It's on real media and everything. They had to edit it together piece by piece and get everything edited just right because you don't want to have the wrong jump at the wrong transition at the wrong time. Otherwise, it's going to be completely what the heck is this and what the heck is going on? This makes no sense. So,
But yeah, I don't know. This is one of my all-time favorites because I just remember it so well from when I was a kid and I shared it with my
yeah.
brothers. It's the kind of the same way I feel about Star Trek because my brothers introduced me to that, and the
Mhm.
first time I saw Aliens, it was with them. I mean,
Mhm.
some of those earliest memories, and they're just the ones and so there's a personal connection, but you can also step back and look at these films subjectively and just go, these are awesome. They just don't, like, every film student should have to sit and watch this film and break
Yeah.
it down, to
Well, and
teach them this is how you properly make a movie, keep people guessing, keep people engaged, and
mhm.
don't put stuff in your story you don't need.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
like the
Well,
song
and
says, don't lose your head.
Mm.
Don't lose your head.
yeah. Well, and one interesting thing I will say about this, if you consider the different time periods, even with the edited scenes and everything from um, colonial America and what have you, and from that one scene where they're during World War II and everything, the costuming and the set design and everything were so good for this movie, considering all the time periods that they jumped around in and everything. I mean, primarily Scotland and modern day New York City or 1980s New York City. The costuming and what have you was actually very, very well done. I mean,
Mhm.
most of this stuff looked period accurate or as close as period accurate as they could get it. So that was one thing that I really appreciated is the fact that they took the time to get the attention to detail just right and everything so that you felt like you were in that era, you were in that space or whatever. And that's like I said before, I am an Anglophile. I love anything and everything that's related to the mythology and history of of Great Britain and so on, and just that's one of the reasons I love this movie as much as I do. So,
Yeah, I see. I got the chance to live in the UK for 2 years, so
mm-hmm.
I mean, I got to actually go to some of these places, and it's just when you're. And I don't know. I have some of the English people that I know
Mm-hmm.
from back then. This is 20 years ago. Um, the English really cherish their history, or used to. Like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they like even like crappy houses. We'd think, it's crappy. I'm going to get rid of that. We'll just tear it down. They don't. They go in, got the house, rebuild it from the inside because they don't want to tear down that old structure. It's just they love their history and they protect it. Really, really in a way that we just don't over here. And at first I was just like, oh, you guys, why are you keeping all this old crap? And pretty soon I'm like, I get it now. Now I understand why they kept everything, even a house that we would think, just get rid of that. They don't,
Mm-hmm.
because it's
Very
a part
true.
of their history.
Yeah, totally. So,
Well, you know what? If I have to say anything before we get off here, if any of y'all out there who are watching this have not read the story of Masamune and Muramasa, that is what this is like all about. Okay. If you go back and you read that tale of Masamune who made the greatest sword of all time in this movie, and Muramasa, who also made a great blade. Those two tales and how they kind of challenged each other. You know, Masamune made a blade that when he stuck it in the water, it all the leaves and the water itself moved around the blade. And Muramasa laughed at him and said, "Your blade didn't cut anything." And he sticks his sword in the water, which was called like 1,000 deaths, and it killed everything. It cut the water, it cut the leaves, it cut the fish, it cut everything. And he said, "Ha ha ha! I'm the winner." And Masamune said, "No, I am, because my sword knows when to kill. Your sword kills indiscriminately." And that is exactly what we are dealing with here. Kurgan kills indiscriminately. He'll kill anybody over anything. Whereas McLeod, who is also a killer, kills when he has to.
Yeah. He only kills other immortals.
And that's the great story of Muramasa and Masamune, the great blade makers. One of them made swords of death. The other one made exquisite pieces of art that killed when they had to.
Yep. I wholeheartedly agree with you. So, okay, folks. Well, I think we've pretty well given this movie its just due and its appreciation and love and everything. So we're going to wrap up here. I want to thank everybody for tuning in this afternoon. I want to thank Loki and Speaker for being here with me talking about this awesome movie. And to my moderator, Shea, Storm Dragon, awesome job as always. Thank you to everybody that's been in the chat. Mountains of Elysium, Tyler M. Speaker, you've been in here. Jens Pender. No, you're good. Chef Zilla. Just everybody that's been here. Brian Hill, and so on. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the stream. For those of you that'll catch us on the replay, I hope you enjoyed this as well. Purple Lady, thank you for being here also. Appreciate it. Just a quick update. Tomorrow night, 7:30 Central Time, we'll be doing our review of Clone Wars Season 7, so be sure to tune in for that. And then, of course, Monday afternoon, we'll have another installment of Afternoons with the Ambassador with my good friend Adaga. We'll be talking Babylon 5, so be sure to tune in for that. Gentlemen, is there anything you want to plug before we sign off for the day?
I'm going to be starting to do nights next week. I'm going to do Tuesdays and Thursdays to start out. It'll be Loki's Midnights of Madness. So if you want to come by and check us out, I think we're good to go at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Be something extra we'll do for a while, and if it catches fire, then we'll keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Speaker, you got anything?
Not really. Just support these two guys. They're awesome. And they've been good to me, and support guys like Adega Outlaw and his book and stuff. I mean, I'm just getting to read Evolution for the first time. I'm reading a chapter every night, and just go out there and support some great creators. These guys on this channel, there's people in the chat and stuff. I mean, I have so much fun. Thank you, Ambassador, for letting me come on and stuff. I really enjoy it, and thanks for thanks for letting me talk too, Loki. You're way more knowledgeable than I am. So,
dude,
I love listening to your shows and stuff, and it's just, I don't know. I have so much fun doing this, and I appreciate both.
Well, I'm going to get you. I'm going to wrangle you on in the morning. I will one morning. We're going to wrangle you on the morning show, brother.
Well, I would love to do it. So.
Yeah, and one further note, folks. Later this evening at let's see, what time? 8 p.m. on Orange Hat Reviews channel. I will be paneling on his panel and everything with his Versus streams. This will be episode 5, I think it is, of the Versus streams on Orange Hat Reviews. We're going to be talking about who will win a war between the Xenomorphs and the Mandalorian, so be sure to tune in for that. So, and as I've been mentioning, if you like what I'm doing and you enjoy my content, make sure you hit that like and share and subscribe button. And when we hit 300 subscribers, I will be doing my 90s music discussion and karaoke night. So be sure to, if you want to see that happen, folks, share these videos, share my streams with your friends or anything. If this is something if the topics are something that they enjoy. So, and I want to say to everybody that has supported me and everything. These guys right here, everybody in the chat, everybody I have met in my time on YouTube and everything has been an absolute thrill and a pleasure to interact with so many. And number one, sci-fi. No, I did not see that and everything, but I'll check it out and everything after I get off of here. So, but yeah, folks, y'all take care. Have a great weekend. I'll see y'all tomorrow night on the Ambassadorial Wing. And until next time, this is the Ambassadors signing off.